retired in 2010, I was serving as a professor of national security studies over at a place called the Marshall Center. I was living in the Alps. I was teaching and making a difference to senior government officials all over the world, and so I was still pouring myself into service and making a difference for our security. And I'll tell you, I got very convicted after January 8th, where I was registered in my home, where I was stationed on and off since 1994 in Tucson, Arizona, when the shooting happened and Gabrielle Giffords was shot. And we didn't know over the course of the year whether she was going to be able to recover. Our prayers and our thoughts were with her and all the victims, but we just didn't know how things were going to pan out. And in that fall, I started feeling this fire in my belly starting to stir, that I had more to give than what I was doing, and that maybe I was going to be called to public service again. I argued with it within myself, I'll be honest with you. I had served for 26 years. I was a little tired. I mean, I have a lot of endurance and I have a lot of energy, but I was a little tired. And the thought of running for office and going into that kind of battlefield in this environment that we have, which is incredibly divisive and you're not getting anything done, was just something that didn't really appeal to me. But I found myself realizing that what leaders do is they step up and they fix things that are broken and they make things that are wrong right. You don't complain about it, you do something about it. So if I was going to be complaining about what's going on in Washington, D.C. and I wasn't willing to do anything about it, then I'm a part of the problem. And so I started to feel this thing inside me. I tried to ignore it and lie down till that feeling goes away. And January 22nd, Gabrielle Giffords announced she was stepping down. On January 28th, I got on an airplane from Germany and a round-trip ticket. 6 days later. I had no idea how to run for office, but I couldn't turn away the conviction I had burning inside me that I needed to step up, and I needed to go home, and I needed to run and serve. And so I got a round-trip ticket just to look into it because it seemed incredibly irrational. To run in like a 90-day special election. I mean, it was like 90 days later. I had 0% name ID. I didn't even know how to run for office. I didn't know you got to file paperwork and get some signatures. I don't know, raise a little money. Am I even eligible? You know, I really didn't have any. I didn't have a clue, but I just had the conviction. So I got on the airplane, said I was going to investigate it, and I wanted to see if I had 3 green lights. Is it technically feasible? Am I electable? And am I called to duty? And if I had 3 green lights, I was going to fly back to Germany, get my dog, quit my job, get my business suits, come back, and run. And by the time I got back on American soil, and by the time I landed in Tucson on the 28th, actually I got home on the 29th in the middle of the night, I knew exactly I had 1 green light, and it was a call to duty. And I had no idea if I was technically feasible or I was electable, but I felt called to duty. I got up in the morning of January 30th. I sent a note to my boss. I hereby resign my professorship. I'm running for Congress. And he said, it's Monday morning at 6 a.m. You haven't talked to anyone yet. I thought you were going to spend 9 days seeing if it was feasible and you were electable. And I said, yeah, I was, but the plane's changed. There's no more time to deliberate. There's only time to execute, and we're running out of time, and I need to move out. So I'm resigning because of the Hatch Act. There's this little limitation. You can't even start looking into running until you resign your position with the government. And I said, I'm running for Congress. So the next thing I did is I met with some pretty smart people about Southern Arizona politics and realized I had no involvement in politics. Granted, I canvassed neighborhoods when my dad ran for school committee when I was a kid. I remember my uncle was mayor of Cranston and ran for governor, so I have vague memories as a young kid of some election sort of night stuff, but I didn't really have a clue. And so I met with some people, and they basically spent 2 hours telling me why there was no way I should run in this election. That it's absolutely irrational, that I would have a potential future in public service, but it's not like this, it's not this way, it's not here, it's not now. If you want to do this, you got to get reestablished in the community, you got to get involved in all the Republican clubs, you got to do your time, you got to be a precinct committeeman, you got to maybe run for state office in this very deliberate path. And there's just no way that I was going to be successful. And I asked them a question in this meeting. Guess what? Why not? Why not? You know, and they said, because you only have 90 days. And I said to this person, I quit my job 2 hours ago. I have nothing to lose. What do I have to lose? And he said, you're gonna lose really, really bad. And then you're gonna be labeled a loser. And I literally laughed out loud. I was like, you know what, after I've been through my life, I'm really not worried about being in a popularity contest. I'm convicted and called to do this, and I'm gonna do it. So we had I know you guys weren't watching it very closely, but I had a 68-day campaign in that first primary for the special election to serve out Gabby Gifford's term. 68 days. And we have early voting in Arizona, and 60 to 70% of the voters vote 30 days early. Okay, so you don't have to be a math major to figure out. I had 0 name ID. Well, my neighbors, my dog sitter, there was like 3 or 4 people. No, I mean, I'm joking. But I literally, from a political point of view, I had no name ID. I was in a 4-way primary. The first guy was the 2010 nominee who almost beat Gabby Giffords, like came really close, who had all the name ID and was sort of the heir apparent. The second guy was the state senator from that area, everybody knew who he was, and the third guy was a local businessman that all the money got behind, and everybody knew who he was, and he had all the money. And so I parachuted into this situation. Ta-da! The girl shows up, I'm running! And I mean, it just was crazy. I literally, my second meeting, I called the county GOP. Hi, my name's Martha McSally, and I'm running for Congress. And they said, excuse me, who are you? I said, I'm Martha McSally, I'm running for, I'd like to talk to the GOP chairman, please. Like, but, and then they're like, she'll call you back in a minute. So 5 minutes later, I get this phone call back, and I get this speech that, we need good people to run at all levels. You know this speech? Have you thought about running for the school board? And I said, no, I'm running for Congress. And I'd like to meet with you this afternoon. And that meeting was a lot of fun. By the end of the afternoon, the head of the Pima County GP, she was just like, this is going to be fun to watch, So 68 days later, I won the voting on election day. And I came in a very strong second overall to the guy who won in 2010, okay? But I just couldn't overcome his name ID in that early voting. I lost in the early voting, but I came in a really strong second overall. He went on to lose the special election to Gabby Gifford's hand-picked successor, who was a staffer of hers, who was hand-picked to take her place, who was also shot in the January 8th shootings. He lost by 7%. June 12th. June 14th, he stepped aside. June 14th, I am now the presumptive nominee for the November election. I now have an eternity to run for office, 147 days. I mean, compared to 68 days, come on, this is forever. I mean, this seems like a really long time. And our district got redrawn, so I lost a 6% Republican advantage. So again, you can do the math. I'm starting down 13, and now we've got this hand-picked successor who said he was only going to serve out Gabby's term, but then he changed his mind and decided he was going to run again. So I got going. 147 days later, we raised $1.2 million. I went to bed election night 1,300 votes ahead. Over the course of the next 11 days, I was actually at freshman orientation. They counted about 80,000 or 70,000 more ballots, provisional and early ballots that showed up at the polls on election day. And every day it just sort of slipped away. In the end, I lost by 0.84%. And it was the second to the last race called in the country. That's like rounding error, at this point. So when I was called to this duty, I have no regrets, by the way. I have no regrets. I learned a lot. I met a lot of amazing people. I believe we were effective. We inspired a lot of people who never got involved in politics before, who never wrote a check before. We inspired people to care and to become a part of a team and be something greater than themselves out of service to this nation. And I have no regrets. I mean, I look forward and go, let's press forward. I mean, I'm very proud of what we did, because I asked the question again, why not? We couldn't, imagine, no one could imagine we even had a chance. We weren't even in the top 70 races in the country, and I don't know if you've seen the chatter this last week, but Cook and Rothenberg are calling now the guy I ran against one of the most vulnerable guys out there. Everybody's claiming we're having a rematch. We'll keep you guys guessing on that. But the reality is I had a conviction and a call to duty, and I just asked the question again, why not? And so I just want to encourage you. We have a very critical time going on in our country, but I'll tell you, after seeing the tragedy that we have going on in Boston, what unites us is far greater than what divides us. So if you were looking for a highly charged partisan speech from me tonight, you're not going to get it. I'm sorry. I wore the uniform for 26 years. I care about our country first. I care about America first. We are one budget deal away from being another great century of being the best leaders in the world. We have an amazing model as that shining beacon on a hill. I I believe deeply in our very fundamental tenets as a country of freedom, opportunity, personal responsibility, and a strong national defense. I mean, I believe in those things. I have put my life on the line for those things. I care deeply about those things. And what we need right now is people like you in the room and others in our community in Rhode Island and Arizona and everywhere to put down our bayonets and to start looking at the things that we all care most deeply about and to move forward and not be stuck in a partisan divide, okay? I don't know if you saw the Wall Street Journal article a couple days ago, but it said Washington, D.C., everyone's tired of Washington, D.C., and says they're really divided and we're sick and tired of it. But the article was they're divided because we're divided, right? They're just reflecting the way we are. And so what we need to figure out is the things that do unite us. And we need to figure out how to move forward to make sure that we preserve freedom, opportunity, great opportunities, good education, all the things that matter so that the next generation has the same opportunities that we had. That we are not the last country or the last generation that hands the country to the next generation in worse shape than we got it. This is serious business. It can't just be solved with rhetoric. It has to be solved by rolling up our sleeves and solving problems and moving us forward. And we need to get going to do that. So I just encourage you, wherever you are, whatever you're involved in the community, in the party, in the state, and nationally, what is it that's burning inside you right now? And is somebody telling you there's no way that it can be done? I would just ask you to ask the question, why not? Why not? Are you being called to step up and run? Are you being called to be an activist in something that matters to you, to try and educate the electorate? Because oftentimes we've got the electorate that is going to the polls and is not necessarily aware of the decisions that they're making. And so is that what you're called to do? Are you called to walk neighborhoods and to support candidates that you support? Are you called to write a check? You know, whatever it is that's burning inside you, you need to figure out what that is, and you got to ask yourself, don't give up. Don't think that things are dismal. Don't give up hope. Figure out how to say, why not? Stand up, fight the fight, take another step, get up the next day, do it over again and over again and over again. It took me 8 years to win the Burqa battle. Things don't change overnight. So we got to get up and we got to fight. So I'd ask you, why not here, why not now, and why not us?